Hey, and welcome back to IMHO, in my honest opinion. And I want to start off this episode by saying I'm not really political. I don't consider myself to be a Democrat or a Republican or, part of the Green Party. I like to look at a person for who they are and what they can do instead of their affiliation. Now, I do know some people, when they go to vote, they will vote down the party lines. It will be every Republican will get a check or every Democrat will get a check. All right, so as you know, we had an election recently. Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump, and Donald Trump didn't seem to like that too much. He started calling the election a fraud, saying that they were votes that were stolen, votes that were made up, pretty much anything he could say to discredit the way the election happened. He started suing people left and right. He started pressuring people to try to force a recount or to have those votes thrown out. So real quick, just the way the election works is that each state chooses a winner by the popular vote. And then that state gets to use its electoral college votes to determine the winner. So the states have submitted their electoral college votes, and now it's time for Congress to certify the votes and finally, officially, once again, say who won the election. But Donald Trump and some of the Republicans don't want that to happen. They want to challenge the votes to get certain states' votes thrown out. And those states were Arizona and Pennsylvania. So they start to have a vote on whether or not to allow those votes or to overturn them. Something that just hasn't been done. And after that vote started, believe it or not, Washington D.C. was invaded by an armed mob of protesters. Again, they were armed. This was not a peaceful protest, but they were armed with assault rifles. I heard they had Molotov cocktails, other bombs, but they were an armed group of people marching on the capital city of the United States. Now, Black Lives Matter, they had a peaceful protest and they still had to deal with tear gas, rubber bullets, some random kid from Illinois who killed 2 people and shot a third, and he's actually out on bail right now. And during the protest, 5 people have been killed, including 2 police officers, one of which was supposedly held down by the crowd and beaten to death. I just want to know, where is the outrage for the Blue Lives Matter? I mean, this was a person clearly dressed as a cop. Police is written on the front, written on the back, beaten down and killed by the angry mob and their mob mentality. And cops were seen taking selfies with the protesters. I don't know if this was before or after the 2 cops were killed, but I wouldn't think they would be too happy about it right now. And so then they invaded the actual building. And they got comfortable. They're propping their feet up on people's desks. They're taking photos. They were climbing the walls, rearranging furniture just like they own the place. And again, people died during the protest. But isn't that what's supposed to happen when an armed mob invades the nation's capital? Look at this guy with the zip ties. They were planning on taking hostages. They were fully armed. This was not a protest. This was an attempted coup. The definition of a coup is a sudden, violent, and illegal seizure of power from a government. That's exactly what we had here. We had armed invaders who wanted to take over and force new political policy. We send troops to other countries to stop coups, yet we're having one in our own country that was spearheaded by our own president. And I don't want to play the race card, but I have to ask the question. What would the response have been if this had been an armed group of black protesters? If everything happened the exact same way, except they were black instead of white, I just feel that the response would have been a whole lot bloodier. I don't think the DC cops would have been taking selfies with them, and I don't think they would have restrained themselves as much as they did. So the attempted coup ended, and Congress got back to voting, and they decided to not overturn the Electoral College. And so the election results have been certified. So let's backtrack for a second. A cop was killed. He was beaten to death. They say he was beaten with a fire extinguisher. Again, where is the Blue Lives Matter outrage? See, I'm starting to feel that people didn't really care about the blue lives. They just wanted to take away from the black lives. I guess because they had the same initials. When it was over, Trump thanked his supporters. He thanked the protesters, told them that he loved them, told them to go home. Isn't that sweet? So after all this, what happened to Trump? He lost the election. For like the 20th time. Every time he fought it, he lost again. He had his Twitter account taken away. Now, I'm sure that probably made him the saddest out of everything going on. Now, sure, he's facing impeachment again, but unless there's jail time involved, I don't see the point of it. Bernie Sanders says he wants to impeach the president to set a precedent. It must be made clear that no president now or in the future can lead an insurrection against the U.S. government. So I can face jail time if I go into a crowded area and yell fire and somebody gets hurt, or God forbid, somebody gets killed. But Donald Trump can spearhead an attempted coup that leaves at least 5 people dead that we know about, and nothing happened. Okay, so Donald Trump is out by the 20th. Maybe sooner, but at least by the 20th. So what then? President Biden and Vice President Harris, they come in, they start running the country. They have a Democratic-led Senate and a Democratic-led Congress. And they always say that a lot of things happen in the first 100 days. So my question is, do things just get better? So do we just flip a switch and go back to how things were before? Do we even want to go back to how things were before? I don't even think that stuff can go back that way. people have gotten a taste of this freedom. I would like to think that things would get better, but I'm starting to feel that we are just moving backwards as a country. I wasn't around in the 60s, but I'm starting to feel like we are fighting for our civil rights again. And back in the 60s, if people didn't like you, you got assassinated. Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK, Robert Kennedy. All of these folks were prominent figures in the civil rights movement, and they were assassinated. Now, I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas. You know, when President Obama, on his inauguration day, when he got out of his car and started walking alongside the motorcade, I knew something was going to happen. I was fearful for that man. Just like now, I'm fearful for the new president and the new vice president. I want to be hopeful that the world's going to turn a corner. You know, so I was one of those people who said, yay, it's 2021. But what has really changed? We still got the coronavirus, and the numbers are starting to peak up again from Thanksgiving and Christmas. I mean, we have a vaccine, and we had a U.S. government that I kind of felt didn't care about me. All we can do right now is continue to be hopeful. We can try to be the change that we want to see in others. All I can say is I have no idea where our country's going to go from here. Just as I was willing to give Donald Trump a chance 4 years ago, I'm willing to give Joe Biden and Kamala Harris a chance too. I'm ready for our world to get back to some form of normalcy. So let's continue to be hopeful. Let's be helpful. Let's try to be happy. All right, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for taking time to be here with me. If you could, like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And I will see you guys again later.